Good morning. And in this part of the Phantom Tollbooth, Milo and his friends are trying to get past the census taker. Not census, but census taker. Destination? Shouted the census taker, sitting up again, putting on his eye shade and taking the pen from behind his ear and opening his book. But I thought, protested the astonished bug. Destination, he repeated, making several notations in the ledger. The castle in the air, said Milo impatiently. Why bother, said the census taker, pointing into the distance. I'm sure you'd rather see what I have to show you. As he spoke, they all looked up, but only Milo could see the gay and exciting circus there on the horizon. There were tents and sideshows and rides and even wild animals. Everything a little boy could spend hours watching. And wouldn't you enjoy a more pleasant aroma? He said, turning to talk. Almost immediately, the dog smelled a wonderful smell that no one but he could smell. It was made up of all the marvelous things that had ever delighted his curious nose. And there's something I know you'll enjoy hearing, he assured the humbug. The bug listened with rapt attention to someone he alone could hear, the shouts and applause of an enormous crowd, all cheering for him. They each stood as if in a trance, looking, smelling, and listening to the very special things that the census taker had provided for them, forgetting completely about where they were going and who, with evil intent, was coming up behind them. The census taker sat back with a satisfied smile on his puffy little face as the demons came closer and closer until less than a minute separated them from their helpless victims. But Milo, who was too engrossed in the circus to notice, Milo was too engrossed in the circus to notice, and Talk had closed his eyes, the better to smell, and the bug, bowing and waving, stood with the look of sheer bliss on his face, interested only in the wild ovation. The little man had done his work well, and except for some ominous crawling noises just below the crest of the mountain, everything was again silent. Milo, who stood staring blankly into the distance, let his bag of gifts slip from his shoulder to the ground, and as he did, the package of sounds broke open, filling the air with peals of happy laughter, which seemed so gay that first he, then Talk, and finally the humbug joined in, and suddenly the spell was broken. There is no circus, cried Milo, realizing he had been tricked. There were no smells, barked Talk, his alarm now ringing furiously. The applause is gone, complained the disappointed humbug. I warned you. I was the census taker, sneering the census taker. I help people find what they're not looking for, hear what they're not listening for, run after what they're not chasing, and smell what isn't even there. And furthermore, he cackled, hopping around gleefully on his stubby legs, I'll steal your sense of purpose, take your sense of duty, destroy your sense of proportion, and, but for one thing, you'd be helpless yet. What's that? Asked Milo fearfully. As long as you have the sound of laughter, he groaned unhappily, I cannot take your sense of humor. And with it, you've nothing to fear from me. But what about them? Cried the terrified bug, for at that instant the other demons had reached the top at last and were leaping forward to seize them. They ran for the stairs, bowling over this disconsolate census taker's ledger, ink, bottle, eye shade, and all as they went. The humbug dashed up first, then Talk, and lastly Milo, almost too late, as the scaly arm brushed his shoe. The dangerous stairs danced dizzily in the wind, and the clumsy demons refused to follow. But they howled with rage and fury, swore bloody vengeance, and watched with many pairs of burning eyes as the three small shapes vanished slowly into the clouds. Don't look down, advised Milo as the bug tottered upward on unsteady legs. Like a giant corkscrew, the stairway twisted through the darkness, steep and narrow, with no rail to guide them. The wind howled cruelly in an effort to tear them loose, and the fog dragged clammy fingers down their backs. But up the giddy flight they went, each one helping the other until at last the clouds parted and the darkness fell away, and a glow of golden sun rays warmed their arrival. The castle gates swung smoothly open on a rug as soft as a snowdrift. They entered the great hall and stood shyly waiting. "Come right in, please. We've been expecting you," sang out two sweet voices in unison. At the far end of the hall, a silver curtain parted, and two young women stepped forward. They were dressed all in white and were beautiful beyond compare. One was grave and quiet, with a look of warm understanding in her eyes, and the other seemed gay and joyful. "You must be the Princess of Pure Reason," said Milo, bowing to the first. She answered simply, "Yes," and that was just enough. "Then you are Sweet Rhyme," he said with a smile to the other. Her eyes sparkled brightly, and she answered with a laugh as friendly as the mailman's ring when you know there's a letter for you. "We've come to rescue you both," Milo explained very seriously. And that's where we will leave it, with Milo meeting the Princess Rhyme and Reason. Until next time.